too might be willing to endure Paul's weaknesses, his trials and persecutions,
Hi,
and share the
my name
confusion
is
with
Jim
him,
Hughes.
if we
I
might
am not
some
emoting
way
enthusiastically
achieve such a
today
degree
because
of
I'm at a funeral.
contentment.
Rob's grandma is being laid to
Don't
rest.
any of you indulge in the silly notion that you can become content without the process of
That's
learning
Rob
to be
over there.
content, or learn
Next
without
to
the
him is
process.
his mom, Edith, and
Contentment
there's
is
his
not a
grandpa,
quality
Sigurd.
that comes naturally, but a discipline to be acquired
In a
gradually.
minute, Rob will take a step back,
The very
pull out
words of
his
the
phone,
text might
and snap a
suggest
few
it,
pictures.
even if we did not know it from experience.
This is an odd thing to do at a
We do
funeral.
not need to be taught to speak,
Rob agrees.
but we must be taught to
Even
submit
so,
in the
Rob's
will
grandpa
and
wanted a
good
picture,
pleasure of
and
the
Rob is
Lord our
here
God.
to do whatever his family needs, even if it's embarrassing. That was so fucking weird, dude. Well, yeah, but it's okay. People do weird things at funerals. In Madagascar, they dig up their relatives, wrap them in fresh white cloth, and dance with them over their heads. And they do this every 5 to 7 years. In Tibet, they leave the body out for the vultures to feed on. Sky burial, they call it. It's meant to be a teaching on the impermanence of life. It's a little funny they do that, like feeding the ducks. But instead of bread, it's your grandma. And instead of ducks, it's a committee of scavenging sky dinosaurs. You shouldn't feed bread to ducks, by the way. It's bad for them. And they're trying to go keto. That's a joke. In the Philippines, the Tingwayan people will dress up the dead person in their finest clothes and seat them at the table. I'm sure it's about as normal for them to do that as it is for us to do our thing. I wonder if it's considered hacky to ask the dead person to pass the potatoes. Maybe they have a dish that's called something like "aw way." Maybe they could pass that. I'm sorry, just trying to lighten the mood. In Ghana, they make fantasy coffins. These are museum-worthy caskets crafted by master woodcarvers. They are intricately decorated with the depictions of the dead person's life, their achievements, and events. The coffin will also reflect what the person wants to experience in the afterlife, often depicting fantastic adventures to strange worlds and meetings with gods. No, that's not true. I'm sorry. I read the words fantasy coffin, and my imagination took me for a ride. And what a ride it was. In reality, the fantasy coffins are rarely as magical as I made them sound. Really, they're mostly big chili pepper coffins, or guitars, or sneakers, or birds, or packs of heaters. It's still nice, but I think my idea was better. Maybe I'll put that in my will. I always thought that wood carving was hella dope. Oh, there's Rob's mom. I better go say hi. I'm very sorry for your loss. Oh, thank you, Jim. It's so nice of you to come all this way for us. How are you getting back? It's no problem. I like riding the bus. Oh, don't be silly. You'll come back with us. We have a spot in the car for you. Oh, Livy, let me help you with that. Sorry, sweetie. We'll catch up later, okay? Sweet woman. How are you doing, Rob? I'm okay. It's a little weird, you know. My relationship with my grandparents was difficult. Honestly, I don't really have any good memories of her. Like, not a single one. So being at a funeral, looking at the corpse, I'm sad, but it's different. I'm thinking about death and shit, but I'm not grieving over her, you know? I feel fucking selfish, like a fraud. Just here to help them grieve and manage logistics of coffins and salads and rides. Sorry, dude, I probably sound like a fucking... I know you and your grandma were close, so... Sorry. It's a hard day for your family. Feeling weird is normal. I'm glad you're here, dude. I'm glad to be here. I'll go get a drink. You want one? Nope. Mine's still full. Rob never had a grandma. That's what that sounds like. He's not losing something today. Maybe he's... I wonder if you can grieve over never having had something. What if he's not grieving at all? Who knows? I think I have an idea about how I can make myself useful, though. And if you can be one thing, you should be useful. Paraphrase a friend. Excuse me, I didn't know Ruth all that well. I'd love to learn about her. Could you share a fun story from her life? Oh, I would love to. Let's see. Oh, alright. So, this one time, we were at a horse race, and there was this clown for the kids. Wait, no, it must have been more of a town fair. Yes, that's right. It was a town fair in Hobbleport, 1957 or thereabouts. Ruth and I were about 15 at the time. So there's this clown there, and Ruthie and I had a stuck some vodka from the table earlier that morning, so you see we were maybe a little more rambunctious and adventurous. Excuse me, I didn't know Ruth all that well. I'd love to learn about her. Could you share a fun story from her life? Oh, Livy, tell him about the summer solstice in 65. Ah, yes, oh, goody. I have not told this story in a while. So, it's the day before summer solstice, and Livy and I are having some dinner at a cafe on the promenade. And it was the loveliest day we've seen all spring. Rob's grandpa told me that when his mother died, Rob's grandpa's mother, he transported and dressed the body himself. All the things that the funeral service does now, he did that with his own two hands. He said there were no funeral services back then. I don't know about that. Maybe. It just got me thinking. For a man who had to bury his own mom like that, I don't know if it's all that weird that he wanted Rob to take those pictures during the funeral. That cemetery is really nice. Yep, I was thinking that too. And the food wasn't half bad at the party, huh? I may not be in the majority on this, but I prefer a simple Soviet-era diner meal over a fancy steak dinner. For sure you're not in the majority. I'm not sad that she's gone. The sad part, I think, is something like it's sad that you can have a long life and be a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, and somehow end up with a grandkid who doesn't care. I'm sad for my mom and I empathize with my grandfather and all that, but the real sadness, I guess, is somewhere in that whole wasted life thing. Or is your life even wasted? Who determines that? Do you need everyone to be devastated when you die? Did she even have any control over herself at any point in her life, ever? I'm telling you, dude, and I'm not kidding. The woman was a fucking nightmare. My grandfather is no angel either, and we all have our own bullshit, but that's not what I mean. She was just another level. I'm sorry, dude. I don't know. Fucking funerals, dog, am I right? Sometime in the late 50s, your grandma and Joan were about 15 years old. They were at a town fair in Pavelport. Earlier that day, while everyone was pre-gaming the fair at the house, they'd snuck some vodka from the table. Allegedly. Of course. So Joan and Ruth are at this town fair, riding high on liquid courage, running around, having fun like normal teenagers. At this fair, there were horses, which were there as either transportation or part of the fair. They had a nice time petting the horses and feeding them hay and apples and such. Off to the side a little, there's this clown. He's there for the kids, of course. But your grandma, apparently, zeroes in on this guy. "What's wrong?" Joan asks her. And your grandma says, nothing, it's fine. But she keeps eyeballing this clown. After a while, Joan realizes she's lost track of Ruth. She looks around, trying to scan for her in the crowd, and sure enough, she sees her. Over there, by the horses. And she's doing something. Something like tying something to the horse, maybe? "What are you doing?" Joan asks her, but Ruth mumbles something under her breath that Joan couldn't understand. Before she could ask her to explain, Ruth straightened out, looked at her handiwork, the clown's bag of props, and presumably his normal clothes, tied to the horse's saddle. Ruth nodded, said, "That'll do it," and slapped the horse on the ass. The horse went off flying through the crowd, dragging the bag on a rope, people jumping out of the way. The clown in the comically large shoes lumbering after his bowling pins and rags and whatnot, flying around the fair. Joan was rightfully confused and alarmed, along with the 30 or so people on that end of the main street where the horse rampaged through. But Ruth stood there, hands on her hips, proudly. Turns out the clown had asked her cousin Linda a couple towns over to help him out during the harvest, and refused to pay her when the time came. Ruth had recognized him and organized a little payback. Shit, I had no idea. Damn. Wanna hear more? Hell yeah, dude. This one time when you were about 10 years old, your grandma and her friend Livy were having a dinner at a cafe on the promenade and a biker gang pulled up. They didn't know what to do, so they just nervously avoided eye contact. One of the bikers walks over after a while and asks if he can have one of their chairs, seeing as they weren't using it.